If once CV was a song or identity, and its quest for it becomes the spoken word tumbling out in a rush, if words that come out become a rant, and a rant could become a rap, and a rap could become your most intimate fears and joys spoken through the words of another to the accompaniment of the tiniest of pauses or the snapping of your fingers to show your appreciation lest you break the flow. Presenting some of Bangalore's brightest and fiercest spoken word poets as they bring you to the edge of your seats. Here we go, Bangalored. We have Bharath Savitri, Daniel Sukumar, Joshua Muyiwa, and Mariyam Saigal.
Sacrificial lamb. In any set, whoever goes first is called the sacrificial lamb, so I am the sacrificial lamb now. My name is Daniel. I've been doing poetry for quite some time. Spoken word poetry is what I do. Most of my poetry revolves around, my poetry is not beautiful. If you're expecting beautiful, I'm sorry. The first poem is about peacefully passing by. It's a poem about what happens to poets who are forced to write beautiful poems. I was wrong. I always thought the death of a poet would be loud, that there would be ripples big enough to create tsunamis, that we wipe out sandcastles built by power-hungry babies playing God on the shores. I thought it would be big enough, like the last ever sunset before the sun implodes on itself, that the last human beings would hold hands and feel the warmth of a burning giant for one last time. I thought there'll be enough blood that a poet can bleed for the 7 p.m. traffic, that it will mistake it for a stop sign and the traffic would actually stop. I never knew that a poet's death would come in pretentious love poems and Xerox nostalgia to stimulate bored genitals. I never knew that a poet's death would come in highly paid advertisement scripts and cheap dialogues for smaller screens that is almost revolutionary, but still carefully inside the box of freedom that they gave you. I never knew a poet's death would be so shrinking that when they bury him, they have to search for the rest of him. I never knew that a poet's death would be so far away from the truth that when they find us, they'll only see cowards. They see liars who chose to write about the beauty of a forest fire, sitting among the screams and the smell of burning hair and flesh. Just because someone has promised us that these flames won't burn us as long as you don't have to write about it. I never knew that a poet's death would be so quiet that they would mistake it for peace. Thank you. The second poem is about people telling me that if you tear away your caste certificate, caste will vanish. It's just like saying if you throw away your, if you tear away your HIV positive, this thing HIV will go away. Same as that. So this is about a poem called Tearing Caste Certificates. It is true. I found caste only when I saw it on a certificate. Before that, I never understood why my grandfather uprooted his existence from the birthplace of his oppression. Why he never talks about culture or pride of his ancestry. After all, my grandfather's house is after a lake by the side of a highway in a series of huts far away from the village. Nobody noticed when he left, so why expect a welcome now? Before I saw caste on a certificate, I never understood why some friends didn't eat from a tiffin box that my mom packed so carefully to not show who I am. And yes, I call these people my friends. I never understood why I was refused to be taught music when I was 14. They looked at my hands to say they were too small to hold anything, my voice too coarse for classical singing. I learned to hold the strings of a guitar like a war cry. My voice like a poem that your gods rejected but burns a hole in everything that you hold divine. When I finally saw my caste on my certificate, I finally understood the rejection of a girl who said, our families will never find common grounds. It was so funny when people change from I love you to maybe in another life, like I hold the power over both, like I could wish it upon a dying star. I didn't see caste for all my life, and when I finally saw it, everything made sense. The teacher's uncalled anger, my father's fear of me finding all the generational shame, the only family property that is left, and my mother's inability to say that love will cure it all. When I finally saw caste, this poem made more sense than your inability to understand it. I'll have one poem after this will be my last poem. This is a poem called My Mother Could Be a Russian Spy. My mother could be a Russian spy. She's a foot taller than my dad and 7 shades lighter than him. Yet the only proof of her existence is a lousy marriage certificate from 30 years ago. I guess it's now 40. So she has no birth certificate and my grandparents don't remember my mom's birthday. In all these years, we have never celebrated one. Probably this is what happens when a girl is born with four brothers whom she had to quit school for to take care of. I don't know if she was asked to. My mother could be a spy because she has 4 tattoos, one with a Russian origin, she doesn't even remember why. But I remember why I got hers. She was 16, she used to lift so much hay for the cows that even grown men were scared of. I've seen her carry more pots of water up 3 floors of stairs than a firefighter trying to save his own family. Now her spine is bent like a bow, her nerves on her toes act like short-circuited wires, sending only signals of pain. I wonder if she regrets. Yet, she never agrees to hire a maid. And when asked why, her uneducated brain gets angry. Her ever-glistening face smiles through the anger. She tells me with a voice so stubborn, you wouldn't want to ask her twice. She tells me with all her pride, as long as I live, there won't be another woman who will ever touch your dad's clothes or put food on his plates. Most of you would call this oppression, but this is how she learned to love, and don't you dare tell her otherwise. My mother can be a Russian spy. She can hide all the Christmas sweets inside her house, and none of us can find it, not even my dad. Sometimes she forgets where she hid them, and we find them a Christmas later. I wonder about the times we have hurt her. I'm sure she hid all her pain in the exact same places. None of us can find it, not even my dad. Sometime her old age takes her back to those exact same places. I wait for another Christmas to ask for forgiveness that I never had the guts to ask. My mother could be a Russian spy. She speaks only one language but can understand every other. There's something about hands and eyes and the way they move that speak to her when words and accents fail. Sometimes when my depression decapitates my hands, pulls out my tear ducts from my eyes, I pray that my mother will not find me inside the dark corners of her house. But she always has known. The sweet potato dish just didn't come out of nowhere. My mother can never be a Russian spy because all she can read is love. All she knows is leftover food that she has now waiting for a window that is 500 kilometers away, where she's waiting for both of her sons. 500 kilometers away, me and my brother eat packaged food out of cartoon boxes. And she adds lesser salt to her dishes because of the tears she mixes with them before she says grace. My mother can never be a Russian spy because all that she can read is love, and I pray to the gods, both dead and living, that when I bring the love of my life home, she won't have to question either one of us. Okay, this is my last set. People will kill me if I don't perform this. It's called A Guide to Personal Killings. Okay, there are a few people who know this. It's a love poem. If you want to kill someone for revenge, for the type of revenge that needs blood and death, and not death to quench it, use your fist. Punch him to the ground like a falling mobstick. When he falls, take your bare foot against his neck. Hold it till you can feel a vein, till you can feel a pulse. They say it takes 28 seconds for a man not to give up, but die. And just as his tear hits the floor, give him one more chance to breathe. You see, hope is the most heartless punishment of all. Then crush his trachea along with his windpipe and watch his pulse fade away like a cloudy sunset when the light's gone a bit too early. If you want to make this personal, look into his eyes as he dies. Make sure you're the last thing he'll ever see. If you want to kill someone for fun, not get too involved and watch from a distance, set him on fire. Use kerosene and not petrol. You see, petrol vaporizes, but kerosene falls into the next layer of the skin before burning the previous one. They say once when all the sensory nerves on your skin is burnt, you can feel yourself burning and not feel any pain. Beyond that point, there is no saving you. Your brain melts through your ears like a chimney on fire. If you want to make this personal, tie him up flat to the ground, tie him up upside down just to watch him burn a little longer as he burns. If you want to kill yourself, hanging is the best way to go, but let's make this interesting, shall we? Use the following steps. Step 1, coat the plastic thread with sodium. Step 2, put your neck around the noose. Step 3, dip your hand in industrial strength glue. Step 4, press them against your face. Step 5, jump off a chair like a baby bird taking its first flight. The weight of your body will force the thread through your neck like butter. The water in your blood will burn the sodium and the thread away the last and the never to be seen evidence. You would fall to the ground with your head in your hands. When they find your body, it would look like you pulled your own head out. They could see the depression on your decomposing body and not feel any pain. But if you want to make this personal, do not leave a suicide note. Watch your brother blame himself for the rest of his life for not hugging you. If you want to make it personal, if you want to kill someone, be up close and personal, use a small knife. Tie him to a pole and flay him. You see, flaying is a process of skinning a man alive when he's still kicking and breathing. They usually start from the skin at the edges of your nails, and they'll walk up to their shoulders. People usually die when you walk up to the shoulders, but control shots of boosters can keep them alive a little longer. But if you want to make this personal, do not cover his mouth. Let him scream, let him beg. But if you really want to kill someone, to satisfy the demons beneath your head, fall in love with him. Make sure you're his first love. Talk to him days and nights and months and weeks and years until the little voice in his head begins to sound like yours. Change him to the point where in the next 7 years, you will have your imprint even in his femur, your scent all over your hands even if he doesn't want to. Hold the back of his neck when you kiss him. Collapse into his arms. Watch him hold you like the last goldfish on earth. After you have him in bed, push him away. Cry, 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 cry so hard that it makes you bleed from his belly of all the butterflies that you gave him. Tell him that he's no longer the reason of your happiness and that he's just a rot within your bones. Watch him shrink into a bundle of his own blood vessels till he begins to hate his very existence. If he's lucky, he'll kill himself. He'll nail himself to the cross even when the hopes of resurrection never existed. If he's unlucky, he'll walk away. Though he walks away, don't you worry, for you accomplish something far worse than death. But if you want to make this personal, do not give a reason when you leave. Just leave. Thank you so much.
Bharath, Savitri, Divakar. I had new poems that I'd written to perform today. But then on the way here, I felt very queer. So I'm going to perform old gay poems of mine. This one's called One Part Woman. On some days, my hands beg for Mehendi. My fingernails want a hint of turquoise. My lips crave for some shimmer. Put these feet in click, click, clickety-clack high heels. Drape my body in a gorgeous sari. Let my skin feel the zari of a Banarasi. Let my coal-lined eyes speak of love, life, lust. Call me pretty. Call me beautiful. Call me milady. On some days, I feel like a woman. My sister tells me I'm too feminine. She spits these words at me like being a woman is a sin, like the word feminine is an abuse. My best friends tell me my hips sway too much when I walk. I want to yell at the top of my voice, baby, these hips don't lie. But I tie my tongue with testosterone, puff up my chest, call everybody around me bench or then other derogatory terms, which makes you a man instantly, spit imaginary pan on the walls. On some days, I wish I did not feel like a woman. At 18, my body was the perfect celebration of androgyny. My chest and hips had enough fat to give them glorious curves, but those curves never reached my lips. At 18, my voice hadn't cracked yet. So when people called her home, they confused me for my mother. Hello, ma'am, they would say. No, sir, I'm not a ma'am, sir. If you call me a ma'am, sir, I'll not answer. I would get angry at a gender. I could not fully express myself. Every day morning, I would wake up and pray to God, God, let testosterone flow in these veins. Let it reach my throat, crack open my voice box. Let it reach my mind and tell myself I am normal. On some days, I wish I felt like a man. You see, my mind is a field of fucked up binaries of ones and zeros, and ever since I was young, I was taught one is more than zero in math and in real life. My mind is a dichotomy of two people. Zero, I am a woman. Zero, I am scared. Zero, I am ashamed. Zero, I am a childbearing, husband-caring, cloth-drying, dishwashing kind of a woman. One, I'm a man. One, I'm scary. One, my head is held high in pride. One, I'm a cigarette-smoking, rum-drinking, bike-riding, belching, pan-spitting kind of a mind. Zero, on some days, I'm a sister. On some days, I'm a mother. 1, stop playing this mommy game. Act your gender. 0, stop telling me what my gender is. 0, stop telling me what my gender looks like. 0, stop using my body as an evidence against my own gender. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 on some days. 0 on most days. 0 on all days. I'm one part woman. My second and last poem is called Celebration. You call me a faggot, homo, sissy. You color my love criminal red. You call the act of my existence invalid. You shoot your guns at me, loaded, blaring. You point your double barrels, your eyes, esophagus of a dragon filled to the brim with fireweed. Your tongue, serpent of a dark wizard, basilisk with poisonous fangs sunk into my skin, bones and muscles. Your hands, your fingers, closing upon my neck, strangling my words, closing upon my chest, choking my breath, which is to say my ribcage is a coffin. Closing upon my thighs, closing upon my legs, closing upon my mind, which is to say my mind is a prison of grayscale, squandered dreams. And you call the act of my existence a joke. Laugh at me in bars, laugh at me in cafes, laugh at me in parliament, laugh at me in Supreme Court, laugh at me in the closeness of your homes and minds, and make mockery of my love, spread thin against my wounded body, every scar as history, make my skin payment for your feet, just a boots with jingling bells. And you call the act of my existence abomination. You call the act of my existence invalid. You call the act of my existence non-existent. You see, I was born in a Brahmin household, which is to say there are more rituals than there are gods, which is to say sometimes even gods are forgotten, which is to say most of the times people are. And I'm untouchable in my own house, untouchable whoring over the purpose of the temple, unholy to enter, unworthy to receive blessings. And because I'm Brahmin and gay and I cannot have a son of my own, my best friend tells me my father will be denied heaven. My grandfather will be denied heaven. My great-grandfather will be denied heaven. All my ancestors will be denied heaven. But brother, what about the earth you have denied me? Brother, you talk about denied heaven. What about the laugh? What about the smiles you have denied me? What about the names that you have branded on my back, bending my spine in a homophobic scoliosis? Brother, you talk about denied heaven. What about the love you have denied? What about the pride you have denied me, which is to say my pride is a 3/4 mile of a walk I take every year where I exchange rainbow confetti for scone. Brother, you talk about denied heaven. What about the fact that you have denied me myself? And my sister tells me, run, hide. Sister, you do not teach chameleons how to hide. We have been blending into the backgrounds for centuries. We are the master builders of closets, and ever since I was born, I've been paying the rent of shame to stay in the closet I built for myself. But I'm tired. I am tired of being a metaphor for failed everything. Failed genetics, failed masculinity, failed biology. I am tired of being a cardboard character of comedy in Bollywood movies. I'm tired of being a minuscule minority. I'm tired of being referred to as this, that, it, and I'm tired about the fact that my sexuality can win me poetry slams, but not my rights. I am tired. But I'm not tired of being myself. I'm not tired of singing songs of joy in my typical gay voice. I'm not tired of dancing till my feet hurt, and I'm not tired of lighting rainbow-colored candles in the dark alleyways of your mind so that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you do not call yourself ugly. Dear straight people, you can call me gay, which is to say I am happy. You can call me queer, which is to say I am special. You can call me September the 6th, which is to say you cannot put me down, dear straight people. You can color my love red, yellow, orange, green, blue, indigo, violet, dear straight people. You can call the act of my existence a celebration.
Poem about that. What do you do when poetry doesn't pay bills? Yes, it can get you banned from venues. It can make you a terrorist in your country, but it cannot feed your empty stomach or your neighbors. It won't pay for law school. What do you do when the rent is due and you run out of cup noodles and your teeth hurt, but the dentist doesn't tend to teeth that are stained from telling the truth? Truth that you held in this cage and then you just couldn't, so you let it out and you spoke about everything from Kashmir to Ayodhya, and they threatened to break your teeth. I know your words are so heavy, your poem broke the scales of justice. The lady justice can see in your poems. The hammer knocked some order in this mayhem that you put a leash on in these stanzas. But what do you do when the world hates you? You're a mirror who talks back. How do you tell your mother, a doctor, I cannot heal, but I can be the cure for those who listen, but nobody listens? So what do you do when poetry doesn't cover the cost it pays? The answer? You write, and you write, and you write until it fucking does. Thank you. So I've never performed this poem alone. This is a poem written by me and my friend called Svetlana. This is called Aurat Jaat Bina Bole Reh Nahi Sakti. All the women, give me a cheer. Thanks. Oh, if you connect with the line, you can just snap. So I know you guys are giving validation. Okay. Aurat Jaat Bina Bole Reh Nahi Sakti. Yes, we can't. We are trying to compensate for the crowd of silences that filled in the courtroom of Kauravas. When Pandavas lost their lands, wealth, and honor and power, Draupadi became the asset they could bet on. You can rely on a woman to become a stop-loss to secure your share in the stock market of male privilege. When her cries for help became white noise, and Pandavas had turned into Gandhi's mute monkeys, Draupadi's sari became God's magic trick. In a room full of powerful dude bros following the bro code, and the only other woman in the room has a blindfold around her eyes, it's no surprise that it takes a miracle to save a woman. Maybe you're scared because you know how our voices can travel into the conch shells of Mahabharat and start a war. Aurat jaat bina bole reh nahi sakti. Yes, we can't because we are made to choose between our nakedness and a battlefield. We are trying to compensate for the silences that filled in the classrooms of Pakistan, and vaginas took to the streets, wanting more than cocks, wanting books. They dug a bullet in the organ Malala was fighting for. This is an everyday choice a woman has to make, to lose her voice inside a man's throat or to lose her throat. Aurat jaat bina bole reh nahi sakti. Yes, we can't. Because we are trying to compensate for the voices that didn't make it to the textbooks, voices that didn't make it to the stage, YouTube videos, surveys, testimonies, Instagram, Facebook, voices that couldn't produce feminism, voices that couldn't write a writ petition, voices that cannot speak English, for tongues that tied themselves into a knot for saat janams, voices that were dragged into the funeral pyres of their husbands, voices that got absorbed in sponge-like walls and were labeled Miyan Biwi ka mamla. ये तो मियाँ बीवी के घर में ही रहने चाहिए. We are trying to compensate for the silences that were left after the murders of women who nobody cared to make a statistic for. Centuries have become a graveyard for tongues that had a backbone. Sati, Gauri Lankesh, Razia Sultana, Princess Diana, Joan of Arc, Nirbhaya, Asifa, Savitri Devi, Nangeli. These are the names that could make it to the headlines. For you, this is history. For us, it's a blueprint. The names we said in a single breath could make a scratch on your glass ceiling. Were you to hear the voices of their broken tongues, how many could fit in your jokes? How many ears will turn deaf to trauma? And how many laughs will echo until their lungs turn into echo chambers? But I forget, Hannah Gadsby says that comedy is built on trauma. Only this time, the trauma doesn't belong to you. It's not an asset you can bet on, not a stop loss. This trauma, our trauma, lives on. There's still a night I haven't spoken about. forget that. There are nights I haven't spoken about. If bullets are tombstones, then our epitaphs haven't been written on them yet. And until that day, those bullets are not lodged in fire. I, Mariyam, the proud member of Aurat Jaat, Nari Sena, आजकल की लड़कियां declare, हम बोले, लड़े, विरोध किए, बिना रह नहीं सकते और रहेंगे भी नहीं. Thank you.
Lack of time, from a series that I call A Brief History of Blame. I spent the pandemic rereading the Bible and falling in love all over again. And I got confused between Eve, myself, the Genesis, and so this is 21 poems called The Brief History of Blame. I'm just going to read the first two. These I was going to read to you in bed. Your body still sweat, your breath still sweet. But moving from laying down to laptop went from brief to forever. The first line was going to describe your nipples, tiny but teasing. For color, I think I settled on walnut. They were the color of the almirahs that stood stern at the back of my childhood bedroom. I'm not sure if it was your nipples standing in attention on the first lick, or that they had been turned for you to be opened. Then I was going to say something clever about your lips, but forgive me, I can't seem to remember them at all. They were like swollen jamuns. I think someone called mine plums once. I asked, do you mean jamuns? Those purple plump things? So maybe yours were like fruit too, an orange segment, but not orange in color. Soft, supple, sweet though. I was going to talk about your love handles, about my grip on them, about your armpits, but it's all a haze now. Haze, noun, origin, English, a slight obscuration of the lower atmosphere, typically caused by fine suspended particles, a state of mental confusion. Haze, verb, origin French, force, to perform strenuous, humiliating, or dangerous tasks to someone new, a potential recruit to the military or a university fraternity. Drive, cattle on horseback. But it is all a haze now, or is it all broken now? Use it in a sentence. You've broken me again. Seduce. That's one of the errors of language in the first 66 lines of the Bible. One might have selected the word deceive instead, but the other can't deceive, right? That takes thinking, something these figures aren't allowed to do. I'll admit it, I seduced you. Confession, Cardi, I don't make money moves. I make changes around a room so you can hang moves. And well, it has worked for me, these bloody moves. The rumor is that the poets are the Inuits of language, that we must know more than 50 words for love, shame, sex, and hurt. But I don't know any more than you do. When it hurts, I can't even tell you where. We tell you it is the heart, but we show you it is the guts. The Inuits don't have to stop at 50. They twist together words and half words that tell us of the many, many ways that snow impresses itself upon them. Impress, verb, origin English, make someone feel admiration and respect. Apply a mark on something with pressure. Fix an idea in the mind of someone. What kinds of marks does seduction leave behind? Hickeys, hunger, heartache. I'd rather have played in the pigsty, flesh, fingering, and friction, than be placed on a pedestal, dizzy, dreary, dull. Why did you deceive me, man?